Rural Victoria, home to Australia's most amazing scenery. From creeks to mountains, wildlife to farming, it truly is a place of amazing beauty and serenity. Shortly after European colonisation, land was split up into parcels and sold to the public to occupy. This is referred to as freehold land. Around here, this land consists of fenced paddocks where farmers can go about their business. Their property boundaries are shown by the fencing that has been built. Or has it? Got a nice early start this morning. We kicked off at about 7 o'clock, and that's because we have about a 2-hour drive to this site. It's very much in country Victoria, quite remote area. There is definitely no phone reception here, and it's backing onto the bush. And what we're doing today is a property title re-establishment. And to translate that into English, basically what we're doing is defining where a property boundary is, and today's job, what we're doing is marking out where that property boundary sits on site. So what we will be doing is placing some kind of marker, usually a peg, and placing that into the ground so the property owner can see where their boundary sits. Arriving on site now, the first thing we need to do is find our survey marks, or commonly known as reference marks. What this sometimes constitutes as a metal pipe in the ground, as we can see here, and this is what we will set up our instrument or our backsite onto. What I'm doing here is setting up what we call a backsite, and what that is a tripod, and what goes on top of the tripod is a prism, which screws on just like this. Prism, all it basically is just a mirror on top that reflects light that's shot from the total station, which is down the road there. And it measures pulse to this mirror and back again, and it records the distance over or the time it takes for the light to travel between me and the instrument, and because it knows the speed of light, it can then determine the distance and set that angle according to what we've already predetermined. Because we've already been on this site before, we've measured these marks in reference to other marks, and we know the angle or the bearing from this point to where my instrument is set up. So we can therefore determine an angle and a distance, and we can then position ourselves in relation to the boundaries and then start to place pegs. So what I'm doing now is positioning my tripod smack bang over the point in the ground, so then we know we're exactly on top of this mark and we're exactly on top of that mark. The next step to do is set up our instrument. So what I'm doing here is placing our instrument directly on top of our second survey mark or reference mark, and programming these instructions into our hand controller, which will then allow me to know my position and be able to set out and place our pegs or the boundary corners. So let's get to it. Once I'm set up, I will then be able to see on the controller here, it will basically give me directions to the boundary corners. So I follow those instructions on the controller and pinpoint the position of each boundary corner. One important thing to note is the instrument has to be able to see this boundary corner. So if your instrument is blocked by a tree in direct line of sight, then obviously you won't be able to place the mark. But for this position we are able to, so I can pinpoint where that position is, place in a peg and move on to the next peg. Every peg is different. Sometimes they're not even pegs that we have to place, and sometimes we have to climb over fences to get to these boundary corners. This example is one that's pretty straightforward, but we need to climb over the fence, place the peg, and then keep on moving. For me, it's jobs like these where you begin to realise just how amazing surveying can be. Being able to, or having the privilege to go to sites like this with this incredible view and incredible serenity, it really makes you appreciate surveying and country Victoria. Changing tactics, and I'm going to put in another station at this point here. I need to place an extra mark in so I can transfer my instrument to a better line of sight so I can finish off placing all of these pegs. So what I need to do is what we call measure rounds, which basically measures our back sight and our new point and can calculate the position of this new point. So I can then set up on it and place the remainder of the pegs. Before the day is finished, I was able to place all of the pegs for this site, and the last important step is verifying all of these pegs, either by independently measuring these pegs again or check chaining using a tape measure. It is a privilege to be able to come out to sites like these and appreciate just how amazing this country is. It also makes me appreciate what I am doing as a surveyor and how I am helping towards preserving this amazing country.